We are absolutely capable of having our own economic development effort in this neighborhood. LA as a city, I cannot explain what the LA's economic development plan is. I think the mayor's going to put one in if she gets elected to a second term. But this neighborhood all by itself needs an economic development plan. So we're working with CD13 to do a sign district, a digital sign district. That sign district will require that some of that revenue stay local. And that local money, I really want to create an economic development corporation. And what that would mean, Rob, is that there would be money to do tenant attraction and retention. It would mean there'd be some money for tenant improvements. There would be money for going after tenants that would be good for the neighborhood.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jared Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back. Or hey, maybe it's your first time with us. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. This is the show where I get the absolute privilege to have weekly conversations with the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry, as we come together to really try and do two things. One, try to understand how to navigate this complex world that we both live and work in. And then ideally, maybe idealistically, try to figure out a way through this conversation to add to the chance that we might leave this world a little bit better than we found it. So I'm super grateful to be joined today by Kathleen Rawson, President and CEO at the Hollywood Partnership, which is an organization we're going to talk a lot more about as we get into this conversation, and Commissioner and Vice Chair at the LA Board of Tourism, which, boy, we are a tourist town in so many ways. So the fact that she has insights into that is going to inform a lot of what we're going to talk about. Let me tell you a little bit about her from my point of view before we welcome her to the show. Kathleen has spent more than 3 decades helping some of Southern California's most recognizable places become stronger, more vibrant, and more connected. After leading the revitalization of downtown Santa Monica for nearly 25 years and having served board leadership positions across LA City, the LA EDC, and elsewhere, she now serves as president and CEO of the Hollywood Partnership, where she oversees the stewardship of one of the world's most iconic neighborhoods, which just happens to be my neighborhood. Every day, Kathleen and her teams work at the intersection of economic development, public service, hospitality, community leadership, safety, and civic innovation, bringing together businesses, residents, nonprofits, government agencies, and visitors from around the world around this kind of shared vision for this neighborhood's best potential. And honestly, what has fascinated me most about Kathleen's story as I was researching to prepare for this episode isn't just her impressive executive resume. That stands alone as interesting, right? But it's that she's built this career solving problems that don't have really simple answers. And that, as I can best tell, that almost always require competing stakeholders to be brought together behind big visions that can make a place better. She's led inside these sorts of questions for decades. And that's really what I want to pull at as we go through today's conversations. Like, how do you intentionally create pride in a community? How do you restore trust in a neighborhood? How do you balance history with reinvention? How do you get the private sector to invest in the public and the public sector to make it easier for the private sector to do so? How do you bring together all these competing stakeholders and interests? And these aren't just ultimately business or political questions, as people who listen to this show know. That's kind of where I live, in that nexus between. They're leadership questions. And fundamentally, I believe every entrepreneur, every business owner, every nonprofit leader, or anyone just trying to make their little corner of the world, their neighborhood, a little bit better will find something valuable in today's conversation. So with that, I'm lucky to say, Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here.
Super excited. There's so much I'm curious about, and I'm going to try.
Okay, let's go.
I'm going to try feverishly to not make this just Rob's personal podcast about his own neighborhood. But I got to ask you, just in the macro, right? It seems like you've spent your career doing this. Why do you love reinventing and caring for great neighborhoods so much?
Okay, that's the bread and butter here, because public space is a shared thing. It's a common denominator. It's an equalizer. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic standpoint. It doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what color your skin is. Everybody interacts with public space.
Amen.
And they need to feel as though that space is theirs. And so I am truly passionate. I think I've met in you now another relentless advocate for Hollywood.
Oof, I'm trying.
Yeah, because here's the thing. There is, and it is hard work. And, you know, given your intro, you're not wrong, but there's nothing more rewarding than seeing people enjoying the place that you help make livelier, safer, brighter, cleaner, and more vibrant.
I love that. What a perfect example of what some might call a life's work, not just a career, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, and I
All right.
happened in it. It's so funny, but I have a hospitality background, so it just comes naturally that you take care of a place.
But you happened into this. Tell that story, please.
Oh, this wasn't a career 30 years ago. People didn't say, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be a place manager."
Right.
You know, you might think you want to work for a city or be a city manager. You might think you want to work for I don't know, parks, or maybe you want to be a park ranger or something. This wasn't a profession. And so when I first, before I got the job in Santa Monica, at downtown Santa Monica, I did tourism promotion for the city. And I did it for hotels first, you know, as a sales and marketing person for hotels.
Sure.
But then what really drew me in was this idea of working for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which meant you were promoting a municipality, you were promoting a place. That's where I really caught the bug.
You're like, if I could sell a hotel, I could sell the city that I love or the neighborhood that I love.
Yeah, because you can buy a hotel room, but if that hotel room is in the middle of nowhere, unless you're going for a silent retreat situation, you're focused on what community that hotel is in.
Absolutely.
So it all boils down to what is the place. And that's where I really caught the bug. And the people who hired me in downtown Santa Monica thought that they had created the place already in 1997, and all that needed to happen was it needed to be marketed. So that's why they bought me.
Okay.
But then, of course, that changed pretty dramatically in those 25 years.
And those changes, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, because that's
Sure.
I think that informs part of just not just this neighborhood conversation, but any neighborhood conversation. All right, so talk to us about this. I'm going to lean on a Disney word, like one of our local companies here, right? Imagineering. How do we reimagine these iconic neighborhoods to amplify what's best about them, you know, juxtaposed against the need for economic revitalization and growth, but also differentiation from other neighborhoods, I guess. In some weird ways, we're kind of competitive with other parts of the same kind of regional area that we live in. Like, how does someone like you now experience when you landed here in Hollywood? You're like, okay, I know what we're doing. This is a career now. This is a job. Like, how do you do that? How do you see your way through it to look and go like, okay, here's the best of what this place has to be available or to be restored, to use another word, right? But then also, how do you imagine it to be something that's a better version of itself?
Well, so first of all, you got to come to work every day with your glass half full. You cannot be a pessimist and do this kind of work. It's just, you'd die.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't be successful very long.
And you wouldn't be successful. So, and also I think that LA is surrounded by just the most iconic and fabulous neighborhoods. Right. I want everybody to thrive. Every neighborhood that is, okay, do we call it competition? Only if you're talking about trying to get more hotel rooms or more leases or things like that. And is that part of it? Of course it is. But the reality is that when you have a vibrant, thriving, whole community, then you're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
And so when I came to Hollywood, and many of my team members came with me from Santa Monica.
Okay.
And so we're sort of a team.
I love that.
That came in and said, okay, we've got some structural shit we need to do. Can I swear on your
You
podcast,
can, 100%. Yes.
Good, because I caught it during COVID.
I may try not to, but I do.
I caught it during COVID and I can't shake it. But there's some basic stuff you have to get done, right? So the streets need to be cleaner. The lights need to be brighter and on. the doors need to be open, the boards need to be down, the street needs to be repaved, you know, a laundry list.
Yeah.
And not to cast bad things on our colleagues at the city, but some of them lost their job description. Okay.
Right. No,
So
100%. Yeah.
So we need to refocus and just like seriously refocus on some of the basic things that makes the neighborhood cleaner and brighter. So we've been doing that for 4.5 years. You mentioned in our little pre-conversation that your listeners were not privy to about the fact that we have 100 ambassadors walking throughout Hollywood, and those people they're cleaning, they're porters, they're power
Every day.
washers, they're star polishers, they're graffiti removers, they're all those things. But we do that above and beyond what the city's supposed to provide.
Right.
But the city's budget is terrible, and those base level services go down and down and down.
Yep.
And a lot of times our elected officials are really focused on more philosophical things than practical things.
Sure. Well, I think we're about we'll skip the politics, but I'll say, like, I think we're about to enter an era where all politicians everywhere in the United States, especially here in Los Angeles, become much more acutely aware of the opportunity to be good at their job by just simply doing the job. Right. Like little less.
and
that's just from an old Chicago guy who I once famously told one of our local politicians, like, I remember people getting tossed out of office in Chicago when I was a kid because they didn't get the streets plowed in the winter. Right. And we
so
have
funny.
those equivalencies here.
Yeah. I just had another podcast I just did. Sidewalk Ballet was with Michael Edwards, who ran the Chicago Loop for a number of years. So I was saying, oh my God, I have such public art envy from Chicago. Right. And their light poles are painted. I don't know what the rest of Chicago looks like, but that downtown core looks awesome.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So to your point, I think we're constantly talking about what has to happen. So when I first started here, there were no street sweeping signs in Hollywood. It's like, how come we don't have street sweeping signs?
Okay.
Guess
something
why,
as small and quote unquote basic as that, like, caught your
Why
attention.
is that, Rob?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Why
there's
do we
no
not?
street sweeper?
Right, I was going to say, because no one wanted to set the expectation that they were going to actually sweep, right?
No, it's so weird. So I said, interesting. I live in Venice. My streets are swept now every other week because of COVID.
Right.
But why are they not swept here? And I found out that the city wasn't sweeping the streets in Hollywood because the business improvement district existed.
Oh, interesting. Like you have this thing, and so therefore we just figured you were going to take care
cool.
of it, I guess?
Not cool,
Right.
city. So I come a knocking, right? And said,
Yeah.
no, here's the contract. It says we're supposed to provide city services above and beyond what the city provides as base level.
Yeah.
Bring the base level services back. So we've been working for 4.5 years to get the base level services restored in this neighborhood. And if you as a resident, I hope you've started to see the fruits 100%. Of that labor.
Including that literal example, because I hear the street sweepers go by on their regular route whenever they do.
Yeah, and we have a street sweeper too. We remove 880 tons of trash from the public right away on an annual basis.
Amazing.
It's crazy. But a lot of times
we are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
Providing the services that the city would normally do.
I'm curious, kind of related, like adjunct to that core question that we've already started with. Talk to me about this point of view, right? So how do you, in a neighborhood, and again, we're just starting out talking about Hollywood. We're going to broaden this out during the conversation, but in a neighborhood that's as unique as this,
Yeah.
and is so rooted in the interests of the millions of incredibly curious, really cool, very like kind, just excited people who are excited to be here in my neighborhood, right? But then there are also the, I don't know, 100,000 or so of us that live in the neighborhood as local residents. How do you balance those interests or those aspirations when you're leading an organization like yours?
What's good for you, Rob, as a resident, is good for the visitor from Minnesota.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
And that's just the bottom line. You take care of the neighborhood for the people who live and work here, and then the rest of it blossoms. And that's really the crux of it. And, you know, the other extraordinary and wonderful thing that Hollywood has, and as a resident, I already know you have it, is this pride in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
The civic pride is a superpower. We
Yep.
should make capes because not every neighborhood has that.
Yep.
You kind of like it, but you're not that, you have a lot to bitch about. Not in Hollywood. I mean, people bitch plenty, but
No, of course. Yeah.
but there's this, people aspire for better for the neighborhood.
Yep.
They have this sort of base level want.
Yep.
That if we can help some of our people who we interact with every day in this neighborhood, we can help harness that towards more of a solution and being vocal about it with our politicians, then it's a good thing.
100%.
People stopped writing their politicians. They gotta pick it back up.
Well, yeah. Well, no, our politicians definitely know that I like to write them. So,
Yeah, good.
and I try generally keep it as positive and upbeat, pragmatic optimism as I am about everything else. But we've definitely established some real relationships, and I view it as that. Like, citizen is a job if you're going to care about a society, and they have a job in their public service role of us. And we should communicate. We should have relationships with each other. We shouldn't just be, like vendor and client kind of relationships. We should actually
always complaining, right?
Yeah, no, you can't do that
that's-
as well. I mean, that's unrealistic as well. Like, you can't just throw stuff at the system and then expect the system to want to help you.
Right.
I'm curious, speaking of the system, and you alluded to this already in the opening, and I definitely leaned into this in your introduction, like public-private partnerships. I mean, it seems like the whole thing just is levered on that. And obviously you've spent your career learning what that meant and then getting really good at it. Your example you just gave, like, hey, city, like, I'm not bitching at you. Like, there's a contract. It is the basis of our relationship. And if we can both like find the way to do our part of the contract, this can be a really fruitful relationship that's going to be good for you, because everybody's going to go home and brag about how one neighborhood in your vast city was awesome. And it's going to be really good for us because we're the people that live and work and bring tourism and bring business to our incredible neighborhood. But like, how important? I mean, is it just table stakes at this point? Like, nothing is going to get done progressively in our neighborhoods and our cities unless we have a more vibrant public-private relationship? Or is that just me
that's
wishing?
where the bread is buttered?
Yeah.
And all the years that I have spent trying to navigate and negotiate with municipalities, and there's this sort of old school thinking a lot of times, and a lot of the progressive or the newer electeds don't have this feeling. But you also have to remember that, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, because there's great people in the city who have worked their entire careers to do great things.
Yep. 100%.
And they care a lot about it. But there's also this, we don't do it like that anymore. We've never done it like that. So I'm not going to think about doing like that now. Let me give you an example.
Please.
So when I was in Santa Monica, I would call the city and say, hey, the curbs at 3rd and Wilshire need to be repainted red. And I would get, okay, Kathleen, but it's going to take like 6 to 8 weeks. And I would bitch about it, like bitch about it. This is the core of the downtown. You've got to come right away. This is it's our image, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I get to Hollywood and we call the city and say, and the curbs look terrible, the curbs in the neighborhood need to be painted. And they said, well, yeah, we're not coming. Not
They
coming.
didn't even give you the, like, you can bitch about it, but it's going to take us 8 weeks or 9 months. They literally just said, like, well, you're on your own.
Not coming. So I found out that in order to get a special request fulfilled, it has to go through the council office. And we have great relationships with the council office. But they have to pay out of their discretionary fund to do curb painting. Why, Rob?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Because on the list of municipalities things to do is curb painting.
Yeah.
Know why? There's 17,000 miles of curb in Los Angeles, and there's one curb painter.
Get out. Like literally one department or one human being?
Okay, I'm exaggerating. He has an intern. He has an intern.
Okay, so literally like
or an apprentice.
Two human beings are the department of curb painters. Inside of now, is that like a Department of Transportation thing? Is that a city sanitation streets?
Okay, I want to be careful here. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say because
okay, no, that's okay.
Folks.
Yeah, that's okay.
But here's the bottom line. So I said, okay, we'll paint the curbs, and I got a grant from Senator Maria Elena Durazo.
Okay,
bless her. She gave us $800,000 to beautify Hollywood, right?
Okay,
but I couldn't get an agreement for the city to say yes to curb painting because it's a regulatory thing. Like you can get a ticket if it's not painted right.
Of course. And I get that part, but like also,
then,
but like we've stepped forward, we've gotten it funded, we will do it. I just simply need you to agree to let us, like give us the reg compliance approval to let us do this.
You're a quick study, Rob. Exactly. And so then I went to the next step and I said, don't worry about it. We'll also in our budget put an inspector. So you send one of your inspectors when we're done to make sure that we did it right.
Okay.
That felt like an elegant solution, didn't it?
Right. Again, we're going to I'm literally going to fund this for you.
Yeah.
And execute it. And I'm going to fund the assignment of one of your people because I know you're probably going to tell me that you can't send that inspector because you don't have the budget for that inspector to do it. Like, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And
so
yet,
I felt like, and by the way, I skipped a couple chapters. One of them was just give us the paint and
Of course.
Okay. So anyway, I still got to know. So then I had to go way up high.
Yeah.
And I walked that guy around Hollywood, the guy who shall not be named.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, listen, picture this. There's a guy standing on the curb. He's got painter's whites on. He's got a bucket of red paint. He's got a brush. All you need to do is say yes. And if we can't get there, I'm going to have to return $800,000 to the state of California.
Right.
And that's not going to be a very good headline.
Right.
But it will be a headline.
Of course.
So we got the MOU.
And okay, so let citizen comment here. Like, let's say this, and man, I am feeling my Chicago roots in this part of the conversation, right? Like, so there's the part that says, there's a part of me that wants to say, like, great job. That's all that matters. We got it done.
I know, buddy.
Right?
I know.
Right? But then
I know where you're going.
But then you got to stop yourself and think more systemically and go like, that is no way for, I don't care if we were a city of 200,000 people, which our neighborhood essentially is, but like we're a city of 4 point something million people in a county of 10 or 12 million people. I mean, we can't function because we are lucky that we have Kathleen on our side. And like, cause then there's a neighborhood somewhere adjacent to us that doesn't have Kathleen on its side. And then that neighborhood is going to be unequally treated. And then that's going to reflect back onto our neighborhood, just like our neighborhood being taken care of. Oh man.
Let me fill your cup back to half full.
Thank you. Yes.
So here's the thing. I don't want your listeners to tell anybody, but we do plenty of stuff in the middle of the night around here.
Yeah.
Where
Just
we
get it
don't
done.
ask for the MOU, we just get it done. The reason that we pursued the MOU is so that other business improvement district, and there's more than 40 of them in Los Angeles, we made the path to allow other bids to be able to do the work.
Yeah.
So
great
that
leadership.
extra effort was why that piece was important. So it's just a good story because everybody can relate to it,
Yeah,
right?
Very much so. It's
But-
also very illustrative of, I mean, you talk about answering the question that I posed to you, right? It's so in one specific way, it's so illustrative of the complexity of what you face on every level. which then makes the output that those of us who see what this particular business improvement district is doing in our particular neighborhood all that more impressive and more easily appreciated, right? Because you know that this is, and again, with caveats, right? There will be people who will listen to the show or watch the show, or I can promise you, I could think of a couple of my neighbors who would be like, I don't give a damn like how it got done, just as long as it got done. And I really don't give a damn about the other 39 business improvement districts that Kathleen's being kind to by basically, setting a path, lighting a path for her peers. Like, I just am glad we got it done in our neighborhood. And I would say to those people again, like, that's awesome that you selfishly think like that, but like, we can't operate like that, right? We have to think.
And going back to the comment about if all the neighborhoods in LA are lifted,
yes,
it benefits all of us. And, listen, I'm as grumpy of a neighbor as anybody else. And so, I can go down that rabbit hole too. But it's like when I work for private property owners. Let's just be abundantly clear.
Right.
My salary is paid through an assessment district that is paid for on a tax levy of private property. So and I do this when I do my board orientation. Okay. Mr. Property Owner, most are misters. Mr. Property Owner, you work all day long, day in, day out for decades for the bottom line. I appreciate that. I admire that. I support that. When you walk into the boardroom of the Hollywood Partnership as a board member, you are no longer wearing that hat. You are wearing a hat for the common good. The common good will benefit your private enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have to illustrate the circle. Now, I got a bunch of BS emails this morning about how we're on the wrong path and that we need to be innovative. And it's like, okay, great. I hear you.
Yeah.
But there's a reality about what our business improvement district is not like most. We do operate differently. We're aggressive. We're relentless.
Yeah.
And so
this doesn't feel, and again, as a local who consumes the benefit of this, the services, so to speak, like, it's never, even from its inception, when I read about it as an idea and then I watched it implement itself over the last handful of years. I've lived in this particular spot for like 6 years now. And so a little bit before this all became a thing. It feels and aggressive in the most positive way of using that word. Like, it feels more assertive in the community. It feels like a heavier handed stakeholder that is far beyond just the private interests of the particular property owners. Honestly, actually, just the way you've structured some of the programming, you talked about the ambassadors, the cleaning staff, the security people, all, like, that doesn't even feel like it's necessarily serving the private property owners, which it is, obviously, because of the way you describe it.
It most certainly is.
It feels like it's serving us. It feels like it is literally in service of the hundreds of thousands of locals that live here and walk the streets and take public transit and buy and sell stuff. And then also the 20, 15 million visitors that we have every year. Like, so that's awesome, right? The private property owners are investing in place. And of course they reap the benefits of that, but it really is more widely serving the community. At least it feels that way.
If the neighborhood is cleaner and brighter and more vibrant, lease rates go up.
Yeah. So the perfect segue, right?
Come on.
Perfect segue. Let's talk about this. I was a couple more questions before I was going to ask you, but let's just do the commercial for Hollywood Partnership, right? So,
okay.
So you've alluded to its structure, like maybe just back up to the sales pitch again and just kind of, what is Hollywood Partnership? What's its core purpose? And then if you want to talk about like the range of services, I've got a couple other little follow-on too.
Sure. So the organization is a property-based improvement district. It's a state legislation that enables organizations like ours to exist. So basically, as I said before, private property owners create a plan for the neighborhood, an investment model, they vote it in. And so we are, we're in the middle of renewal right now because we have a 10-year term. And so we get $8.9 billion from stakeholders in the property owners. Some of those property owners pass it along to their tenants. Some of them absorb it. Some of them don't have tenants.
Sure.
All of that is not it's based upon square footage.
Okay.
It's not based upon the assessed value of the property. So our funding is pretty reliable.
I was going to say, sounds pretty stable, which in today's world of pseudo government that seems like unheard of.
Super important.
Right.
When I started 4.5 years ago, the board had gone through the exercise of creating a nonprofit, a 501c3, a charitable arm. So we're a 501c6, which allows us to advocate, not endorse candidates, but advocate for positions. And so we do that. The nonprofit allows us to go for government grants. So and for philanthropic dollars and fee for service dollars, et cetera. So we're bringing another $2.5 to $3 million a year through that as well. So we're about $12.5 million a year that is put into this 80 block neighborhood.
Wow.
Okay. Our work is divided into 4 buckets. The first and most expensive bucket is the Clean and Safe program we've already talked about. Our ambassador program, that's where we're power washing, star polishing. We have porters, we have security teams. So, if you and a friend want to walk from tramp stamp Granny's over to the W to have a drink and it's 3:00 in the morning and you don't want to walk by yourself, you can call or text us 24/7 and we'll walk with you.
Okay.
Or say there's people.
I did not know that. I've suspected that was true because of some things I've seen before, but I never knew that was an actual service. That's awesome.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at ePseudo. Running any business, but especially a law firm, means balancing a lot. And technology, frankly, shouldn't be a headache. ePseudo makes information technology and cybersecurity simple for law firms large or small. With over 20 years of experience, they specialize in everything from Microsoft 365 management to advanced cybersecurity solutions. They help you to stay ahead of threats, manage your data securely, and keep your tech running smoothly so that you can focus on what matters most, your clients. ePseudo understands the legal industry's unique needs, offering tailored solutions to ensure that your firm is always in compliance and always protected. Are you ready to upgrade your firm's technology or get help with your questions? Visit ePseudo.com.
That's a very college campus kind of service vibe, right? Like the safety protocol.
We call it escorts, which is probably okay for Hollywood, but we'll figure it out.
Exactly. Yes. We have certain liberal use of language here in our little neighborhood that other parts of town might not get away with. Exactly.
Yeah, I always say to people, we're not precious. We're okay with strip clubs. We just want them to be burlesque,
Right, there we go. Nice, exactly.
Okay, so that's the biggest bucket.
Four buckets, that's the big one.
We spend about 80% of our money in that first bucket.
Okay.
Because it's labor intensive, 100 people in the streets, power, trash trucks, street sweepers, all the things.
Yeah.
Then we do neighborhood beautification. That's the curb painting, tree planting. We've planted more than 125 trees since we've been here. We do young tree care. We do lighting programs, facade improvements, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Third bucket is events, promotions. We host Pride, including Pride Village, which is a free and open to the public thing. We started that program, and now I'm very happy to say that Christopher Street West has adopted it as their own, so I no longer have to produce that event.
Awesome.
Way better for us. So we plant the seed and let it grow, and then we plant another seed and let it grow.
Sure, yeah.
And so also in here, we're doing business promotion. Like if you go on the website, there's a calendar of events that's really robust. Like if you want to know where a comedy is on a Tuesday night, you'll find it on our website.
Yeah, and socials as well. Like you got whoever the team is that works on socials is off the charts. Like fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'll let them know you said that.
They probably already know me as a frequent commenter or replier on their posts. Yeah, no,
you help our engagement numbers. I appreciate that, Ron.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then our last bucket is advocacy and economic development. Now we spend very little money in those last 3 buckets. We have almost no money to spend in those. But advocacy is what I do day in, day out, all day long. Sure. But we're also, when we're talking about money, it's like we work with the International Downtown Association and the California Downtown Association, and we give them a little bit of funding to help do this, both the statewide and the federal advocacy, those kinds of things. Like we're working right now on Lowenthal's assembly bill that would eliminate predatory ADA lawsuits by giving people an ability to cure. So
Okay,
if your
good.
mirror's a 1 inch off right now, a small business is facing $5,000 to $7,000 lawsuit, just to settle,
Right.
where, somebody can move the mirror in about 5 minutes. And then if they cure it within 120 days, then, this is
Everybody
huge. And
wins. Yeah.
yeah, we got to get this to happen. It's been stuck in the legislature for 3 years. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that kind of advocacy we do.
Sure.
And so those are the 4 buckets. And then the C3 has exactly the same mission as the C6 and strategic plan. And everything that we do in there accelerates the work of the C6. So for example, one quick example, we do concerts on Hollywood Boulevard. They're ticketed concerts, so it's a big deal.
Yep.
But that producer gives $100,000 contribution to our nonprofit. We then take that $100,000 and we sink it back in the community by providing new trash cans or painting light poles or whatever it is.
Okay. Nice.
So that's how that works.
Very complimentary. That's awesome. You mentioned in the middle of that renewal and 10-year terms. Like, explain what that meant or means.
So business improvement districts have a term limit.
The district itself, like as a legal entity.
The district itself, that's correct. If you go onto the LA bid portal of the city clerk's office, you'll see all the bids in LA. And so when you do an initial term, it's a 5-year term, but then after that, you can renew for 20 years. 10 years, sorry.
Okay.
I got ahead of myself with my thinking because I had a 20-year term in Santa Monica. Santa Monica is its own city, so they can make their own rules.
Different. Okay, that makes sense.
But we're in renewal now, and so we're going to try and reset that base rate up higher so that we have more services, because we have a cap on how much the board can increase the bid every year of 3%. And I don't know, how much has your health insurance gone up? It's been more than 3%, right?
A lot since December, that's for sure.
Yeah, or liability insurance, or cost of goods, gas. And so every year, even if we take the 3%, the amount of money that actually gets spent in the street goes down because we're not keeping up with the cost of living.
Yeah.
So we're working on that now.
Inside of that, obviously, you're an employee of the organization, of the board.
I am.
You have your team that came along with you. I'm going to put words in the mouth of the board members. I'm sure there are some ardent critics, but there are probably a lot of ardent fans. Like, I'm sure they're all grateful to have you and your team and would want to keep you here for a long time. But having said that, like, we all know, right? The world changes and people change leadership all the time.
Of course.
Understanding all those politics that are in play and that are always pressured on you in your seat, I want to suspend that for a second. And I just want to ask you, because you now have been here for a period of time and you have begun to implement a lot of your initial kind of like emergency visions, right? Take a breath with me and talk to me about, even if it superseded your personal leadership, like, what would you want? What do you envision? What's your dream of what we're capable of in this 80 block neighborhood over the next 10 years?
We are absolutely capable of having our own economic development effort in this neighborhood. LA as a city, I cannot explain what the LA's economic development plan is. I think the mayor's going to put one in if she gets elected to a second term. But this neighborhood all by itself needs an economic development plan. So we're working with CD13 to do a sign district, digital sign district. That sign district will require that some of that revenue stay local. And that local money, I really want to create an economic development corporation. And what that would mean, Rob, is that there would be money to do tenant attraction and retention. It would mean there'd be some money for tenant improvements. There would be money for going after tenants that would be good for the neighborhood. On the west side of the district, on the east side of the district, we have 3 grocery stores now. On the west side of the district, we have none. And there's 3,000 people per square mile in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, are we thinking about what would succeed here? Are we thinking about things beyond tchotchke shops? We need to be.
Right. That's okay. There you go. See, and that's speaking to something I teased it during the pre-conversation, right? This idea, Los Angeles is my urban planner friends would say, like a multinodal city, right? So
Yeah.
it can have, practically speaking, like multiple complementary downtown, so to speak. Or as like I grew up in a little suburb part of Chicago and it was called Uptown, right? So that
Yeah.
would be fine. I don't care what we call it. But so what you're saying, with your vision, like personal, and I'm assuming there's some stakeholders that support what your vision is like treating ourselves, looking much more here as like this has its own ring of influence and capability and possibility, and not to say that we're not part of the city of Los Angeles. We are, and I'm grateful we are in a lot of ways, but like also like even in that context, we can think about our neighborhood because it is so uniquely dense and so uniquely vibrant and has so much unique potential, commercial potential and tourist potential, like all of that. We can think about it almost in its own little kind of municipal sense to this degree, to this economic development degree.
Bingo.
Okay.
It shouldn't be so abundantly clear. If you and I were walking down the street and we were walking from Hollywood into West Hollywood,
Yep.
that should be more seamless than it is.
I do that pretty much all the time. And some
It's
some
not
streets,
seamless.
depending on where you are and what streets you cross over, you're like, holy shit, I'm in a different city.
Right.
Yeah.
You're in Oz.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
So I think that the neighborhood of Hollywood has, and listen, this old dame, we've squeezed her reputation dry.
Pretty much. I mean,
And we have not nurtured her. We have not fed her.
Right.
She needs care. She needs keeping.
Yeah.
She's
the 100-year-old house that no one has paid attention to the termite rot and the water leakage, and that we've just kind of gone like, she's kind of pretty. It's a 100-year-old house.
Yeah, look at this cool thing.
Right.
But we've got to do that. So in my mind, when I leave here, which won't be too long from now.
Yep, you're not going to do this forever. That's what I said. It can't just
all
all be about, as much as I'm fascinated by you already, it can't just all be about Kathleen.
Absolutely not. But structural change in putting the sign district in that creates a revenue stream that can fund supportive services for economic vitality. That's number one. Yeah. Number two, creating our own little pocket of a tourism effort for Hollywood. Well, LA tourism is very focused on downtown. They're very focused. And, I'm a tourism commissioner. You mentioned it in the intro. And so when I say how many of these rooms have been, that are in the pipeline are in downtown LA, it's more than 90% of them. And that's because they're mandated to fill those properties first.
Sure.
Or that's what they're expected to do. I don't know if it's an actual mandate. So, but this neighborhood has iconic theaters. It has so many hotel rooms. We can book rooms. We can book meetings for 2,500 people, 3,000 people. They can fit in this neighborhood, but we don't have a concerted marketing effort to help support that. Well, I want to do that. We want to create and basically lift up a much more robust public works department under our organization that's doing, right now we're doing 420,000 interactions. Okay. Remember, I work for private property owners. If you don't write it down, you didn't do it.
Exactly.
420,000 interactions on an annual basis that we are doing. That might be an overflowing trash can. It might be, Joe, you don't have pants on again today. What happened to the pants we gave you yesterday?
Yep.
Right? Or it's walk with me. Let's calm down. Can we get you a glass of water?
Yep.
We negotiate compliance. Our response time is 8 minutes. 420,000. So if we can create that kind of scenario, by the way, the county supports that effort, $250,000 a year they give us for our dispatch center.
Okay.
$800,000 from Durazo, as I mentioned, for beautification. $1.5 million to stand up our first public restroom and visitor center at 1627 Vine. Yeah, these things are all in the pipeline. Yep. So we're trying to take care of her. And
for the first time in a long time. With a vision, and I'm shouting you out on this one as a compliment, right? With a vision towards, again, this is restoration, right? Because there's some people who might misinterpret like we're trying to care for, again, as we're just trying to get the basics turned back on, which you are, but you're doing that in the context of like, you personally, like, I'm going to personalize this a little bit, like I'm not going to be here forever, and I've got some damn high priorities for what I want this to be when I leave, because this is going to wind up being a nice part of your legacy story.
Well, and to be honest with you, Hollywood has been put together the Walk of Fame was put in the 60s to bring people back.
Yeah.
That's how long. Okay. The Chamber of
Right.
Commerce did it as a marketing ploy.
Right.
But it's been sticky tape and thumbtacks
Ever since.
and hope since then.
Yep.
So we have to create some initiatives that are real, that have real impact. So
yeah, amazing. And boy, I mean, think about this. At its worst, like it'd be like throwing a house party, the same house party, and never changing it, and tens of millions of people still come every year.
34.5 million visitors.
Right. And not every single one of those is someone net new, right? So there are people who are coming back every year, multiple times a year, etc., in spite of our imperfections and our flaws. So
and we have to do better. We have to do better.
Imagine what's capable, what's possible, right?
And if people would sort of, I have a funny thing to tell you. So 4.5 years I've been here, right?
Yep.
And I got curmudgeons, for sure.
Of course.
And I got this guy who says, I've been here 30 years. You never listen to me. You never take the time to talk to me. No, that's not true. Because otherwise I wouldn't know he said this, right?
Sure.
But you never listen to me. And I have a lot of ideas how to make Hollywood better. And I'm thinking to myself, if you've been here 30 years, what have you been doing?
Right.
Let's.
Are we just like, I had a lot of ideas, but like no one is catering to me. I'm not feeling heard or seen. And so therefore I don't share any of my ideas or try.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't kiss the ring, Rob. I'm sort
of course.
That
no, that's the politics of it all, right? And
but the politics are the part that I thrive on.
No,
clearly. I have a COO that is amazing. He's analytical. The ideas get
condensed
worked out
down to
so that they
executable things,
actually can happen. And
right.
That's not me.
No, but that's a good partnership at the top. That's good leadership.
Yeah, I sell the dream, right?
Yeah, but you have a vision for what is possible, right? Which is the whole. I called myself a pragmatic optimist. I said that in the beginning of the show. I define pragmatic optimism as being painfully aware of the conditions on the ground around us while choosing to lean into the possible, right? Like that to me is
trying to find the path.
Exactly.
This is like hiring the curb painting inspector.
Right.
That's the path.
No, and that's why that story was such a great analogy for the whole conversation that we're having. I'm curious, like you mentioned the International Downtown Association. You've obviously served on a whole bunch of different groups, different boards. You have the good occasion to have relationships with people like you who are running organizations all around the world. Like, whether you want to frame this in just this neighborhood or in the broader city of Los Angeles, like, do we or are we looking at a New York City and how they've pedestrianized Times Square and how that has dramatically increased foot traffic to retail and how it's dramatically improved safety in the neighborhood and how, in spite of all the NIMBY, like arguing against like closing down lanes of street and that was going to kill the time, and it's actually made it all better, right? And they're all grateful for it. Do we look at examples like that? Do we look at Paris's and Mayor Hidalgo's massive expansion of green spaces and tree planting, and like, are there people aside from just you, like inside the infrastructure of local civic leadership and governance, who look at those things and say, like, let's copy and paste? Like, we don't even have to reinvent. Look at, hey, Hidalgo's she's figured out in the French system how to finance planting 500,000 trees. She's figured out how green space, and she's made the case. And here was the pitch she made to local residents who were ready. Didn't have any change.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Shore Capital. In today's venture capital world, it's not just about cash. It's about relationships. Capital is harder to find. Limited investors have fewer managers that they can trust, and the industry is just filled with far too much hype. Shore Capital is an early-stage venture fund investing in the world's most ruthlessly iterative founders, helping its limited partners to find founders who are solving the world's most dynamic problems, teams that excel in mastering the idea maze, teams moving with a rapid, iterative velocity and demonstrating radical resourcefulness. Shore Capital doesn't just write checks, though. They become fractional co-founders when needed, offering strategic support, high leverage relationship development, and a deep commitment to the long-term success of their portfolio companies. If you are a ruthlessly iterative founder with a bold vision or a limited investor seeking sustained access to the brightest big thinkers of our time, Shore Capital wants to meet you. So visit shorecapital.notion.site to learn more.
To have any change, like, do we lean on those things, or are we? I've heard this from so many people over the last 6 years of this podcast and just in my life. Like, sometimes in the city of Los Angeles, the broader area, we just think that we're so unique. It's so different here that, like, no, you understand, we can't apply those lessons. Like, we have to do it our way. And then our way winds up being not doing it.
So, yes.
Thank you. By the way, thank you for that. Thank you for that exclamation point punchline answer to my waxed on poetic question.
Well, here's the thing. Every city thinks it's unique and different and nothing applies to them. And there's only one way to do it, and that's our way. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
So remember I told you that this wasn't a profession when I started?
Right.
And so what it has evolved into is this extraordinary group of people. And there's not a lot of job openings because we don't leave, by the way.
I was going to say, right? You Santa Monica, like, you were there for a long time.
Yeah, and I expected to finish there, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But the thing is that, yes, there's this group of people that do the hard work that then, if I were to call my friend Kate Borders or Chris Larson or Tim Tompkins, or, I mean, name a major city, those people are our colleagues and friends. I can call them and say, hey, did you do this? When we were in Santa Monica, we were trying to manage street performers, and Times Square Alliance had done a beautiful job with it. We went to Times Square. We
awesome.
copied the whole thing. We talked to their legal team. We brought that information to the city of Santa Monica's legal team. And while it wasn't exactly a cut and paste, it was 7/8 of a cut and paste, because everybody has to put their own signature on it.
Of course.
And for me, that's a win. So there is much to learn from other communities. And we do not have trade secrets.
That's beautiful.
We are not the same as a private entity. So, well, I'm sure my contract says I can't share trade secrets when I leave the Hollywood Partnership. There are no trade secrets. What works for us may or may not work for you, but I'll tell you how it worked for us, and I'll tell you what pitfalls I had, and I'll tell you where there were successes, and I tell you what I'd never do again. Yep. And so they've got COOs, like you have a COO, and so they've got people who have implemented these things and can also then say, like, and here's how we funded it, and here's how we didn't, and here's what we needed to do, and here's the compliance stuff we had to deal with, and it's going to be unique to your city or your municipality or your state, but here's the outline. Yeah, and we're doing on something right now, which I'm not going to tell you about, but I called a couple of our contractors and our consultants and said, hey, has this ever been done anywhere before? And that's question one. And number two, is it legal?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he said, no, it's not been done before. It might be legal. And so that's all I needed, right? So then we go into exploring it and seeing if it has viability and that sort of thing. But this is such a great profession, because you literally can touch everybody's life while watching. You can actually see your work on a day-to-day basis.
And I think from the citizen's point of view, right? I just imagine we live in a world that is so information accessible, right? So maybe 100 years ago, right? Like how you developed this neighborhood in Hollywood was literally like cut off from the rest of the world, and people had no context or perspective unless some famous architect who also happened to design something in New York City happened to hear, like, right? It was a very happenstance. But now, like, any resident of any neighborhood in any city in any place on the planet can be on their phone and an Instagram or social media or YouTube or something and see the virtues of the pedestrianization of New York City and the Times Square area, or the reinvention of portions of Paris with green spaces and more parks and all that. And they could go, whoa, and they can long for that in their own neighborhoods. Again, whether it's our neighborhood here in Hollywood or yours at home in Venice or anywhere in between here. And that, I would imagine, to me, I could hear politicians in my head going like, yeah, boy, that puts a lot of pressure on us. And I'm hearing it from the opposite point of view, which is like, but that also just gives you such a massive advantage. Like, you can do this more easily than they did it. Right?
Well,
because
and the interesting
they had
thing
to they had to invent that thing
they
that
had
they
to start
did.
it, right?
Yeah, you get to come along and kind of draft off of it, so to speak.
We're doing a session at IDA. There's one where I think it's either 10 or 15 of us who are like really long in the tooth in this job. And the session is called "Oh shit, the things I wish I hadn't done." And it's meant to just, we all have 5 minutes, and we're just to explain this sounded like a good idea, but in the end it wasn't. But what I tell property owners now is we're leaving Times Square West Coast on the table. We're not, that's ridiculous. And okay, you didn't want to talk about politics, but I'm going to go there for a few minutes because none of this work can be done. The city can do loads of things without us, the partnership.
Yep.
We can't do anything without the city because 100% of what we do is in the public realm.
Yep.
So before Hugo Soto Martinez was the CD13 councilman, it was Mitch O'Farrell. And then before him was Eric Garcetti.
Yep.
Now, Hugo is a democratic socialist. I work for property owners. Democratic socialists and property owners are oil and water.
Exactly.
Mostly.
They don't tend to sit around the same tables often enough.
Don't sit this, right. They should, by the way, but don't or haven't.
Yep.
So, as someone who doesn't get to choose who her council person is,
right,
you have a choice once that person is elected. You can fight for 4 years about what you disagree on, or you can find common ground.
100%.
And that is what we're doing with CD13. I will tell you that we have been able to work with that office and with the council person himself to a degree where we're moving the needle because prosperity is a shared goal. He wants businesses to thrive. He's a labor organizer.
Yeah, right. The more businesses thrive, the more jobs there are. Right. The more jobs there are, the more
got some bright. Yeah, he's got some bright red lines. Union labor's a must.
Yeah.
He has issues with hotels and
yep.
you know, we all have our bright red lines.
Everybody does.
But when you figure out, here's an example. He wants, these are his words. I want to build shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Affordable housing. He wants affordable housing. So I pulled together a group of my property owners who are developers with him to help him understand what has to happen in order for affordable housing to be built.
Yep.
And to his credit, he says, I'm a union organizer. I don't know how to do this. Tell me what has to happen. Good. And so those conversations are so good. And I didn't work with Eric at all and only work with Mitch for a couple of months. And we got lots of good stuff done.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak to the history of it, but Hugo is not opposed to density. He's not opposed to some of the longstanding things that other council people have been wary of, to your point about not wanting to go down the Times Square route because they're worried about the political backlash.
Yeah.
The thing about Hugo is that he doesn't really give a shit about political backlash. He really wants to make a difference.
Yeah.
And we're great partners, and I'm proud of that work.
No, it's a great, and also thank you for sharing that because it's such a great example for everybody, right? Listening, no matter where they are in their own communities, to think about that. And again, like we all, hey, I'm holding up this, like, that's all my voter stickers, right? I mean, that's, I'm a part of this society, and we all are. And the more we understand that, and we understand the collaborative nature of all that, as opposed to this kind of oppositional kind of, I call it enragement, engagement mentality that we all seem to have been immersed in by the algorithms, the better we are, because the truth is nothing gets done.
And we're exhausted by it anyway.
Yeah, no. And we're in a new era. I've said this, you may agree or disagree. I believe like we'll look back in the early 2030s and we'll look back on the 2020s and say that the pandemic, and then the politics of the country kind of robbed us of an entire decade, and that basically we're going to understand that the 2020s were really like a transitional decade in history. I'm a bit of a history nerd, and I think locally, and it's not just being boosterish, like I think locally, like our Southern California region in the 2030s is priming itself to thrive again. But
I agree with you.
We've done this right 6 or 8 times over the last 100 years, and we're going to do it again. Although I love selfishly for this neighborhood, which I am passionate about, that you're standing up here and saying like, hey, we might have ignored this incredible asset, this incredible place for the last 100 years and just leaned on its headline reputation. And now we have, that's where I come in, like kind of to give you this platform to talk about all these things. It's like, now we have this incredible opportunity to say, wait, we can invest in this 100-year-old thing, like preserve the best parts of it, amplify it in new ways, but probably in ways still that would kind of speak to the spirit of what it was when it was born, and adapt it to fit the modernity of the dense urban normal life in the 2030s. And it'll just be better. It'll still be Hollywood. The sign is still there. The hills are still here. The streets are still there. People keep coming. Like if we made it better for the people who live here, as well as the people who come here, like everybody wins, to your original point.
Well, and I think the other thing is that if we enable people to invest, we get away from this idea of, let me tell you all the reasons this won't work.
Right.
And we instead say, well, you're 90% there. And if you tweak this and that, then I think you can go. If we can change City Hall's processes to be more of, let's get you open.
Yeah, let's get shit done. Let's build shit.
Let's get shit done.
Right.
Then that's where, that's where whoever's the next mayor,
yep,
if it's our current mayor or someone else, that's where that position can really have input.
100%
impact, sorry, because it's not a New York City thing. We're not a strong mayor government. So, but the bully pulpit
to shape policy, pressure points, leverage, coalitions, as you say, that are required in a place's kind of.
But not only the bully pulpit, but literally get into those departments and put your analytical COOs in each one of them and say your mandate is to fix this.
Yeah, and to say the end game of fixing it is to make it work in service of the growth, or if growth scares you as a word, the redevelopment, the repair, the nurturing, the love, like however you need to frame it, it's the same output, which is that we're going to make the place that we all love and call home and do our business and grow, like we're going to make it better, stronger, richer, safer, healthier for everybody.
And there's no bad word in any of that. Vitality, except for no. No
right.
is the bad 100%,
word. Exactly. Yes. All right. last question, and then a closing question. This is just kind of the personal. Decades from now, like we already know, we established this. There will be millions of people, and there will be local residents who live on this, like me. Maybe my grandson, who right now is a 20-month-old, lives in Los Feliz. Maybe he'll live in his grandpa's Hollywood someday. But they'll be walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and whatever that might look like. What's the feeling that you hope your leadership, however long you're here, leaves in people as they experience the neighborhood that you came and cared for so deeply?
I want them to feel cooler, and I want them to feel excited and interested, and I want them to have images that provoke history, right? Like you're here in this place that was and is an important part of the American story.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Great. Thank you for that. And thank you for the fact that you believe that and that you're working in service of that is incredible. Quick last question. This is kind of our closing segment question. If someone's here in the neighborhood today, what are 1 or 2 ways that person can like easily and obviously get involved in their neighborhood? Like how can people here who give a damn say like, I want to step up and volunteer or help or work or whatever?
So there's lots of ways, and the thing that I've found in all my years of volunteer work and in paid work, that you should always do something that's very close to your heart. So if you are someone who believes that food insecurity is something that you care passionately about, then you need to call the Hollywood Food Coalition and get on their roster.
Okay.
If it's education or foster youth, call Aviva and get in touch with those folks. If you're interested in creating, helping trying to solve homelessness as a coalition, Hollywood Forward is your group. But what I would say is that any of the listeners can email me and I will answer them. It's Kathleen@HollywoodPartnership.com. And I will be delighted to try and steer people to things that will help make the community better. Because
awesome.
Engagement of local residents, you are an anomaly, Rob. You know that. Most people watch things happen in their neighborhood and they don't stand up and walk into it.
100%.
We will be stronger if more people stand up and walk into it, which
Totally
means, which doesn't mean stand up and scream about it. And we need to change this dialogue about somebody should really do something to what can I do?
Oh, that's amazing advice. You've already told people how to reach you. The website, I would imagine, is, I can't remember it off the top of my head.
HollywoodPartnership.com.
Boom. And I've already shouted people out to go to the Instagram, find them on Instagram. There we go.
Oh, is that going back? Is that
That's beautiful.
That's
that is
backwards.
It.
So
no, it's okay.
the 24/7 dispatch center, 567 HLYWOOD.
There we go.
24/7.
Yep.
Call or text. Now, if a trash can's on fire, call the fire department.
Exactly right.
If
that
the
would
trash
be
can's
an emergency.
Yes. If the trash can is overflowing, call us.
There we go.
Okay?
Yes.
If
Amazing.
Joe with no pants on, Joe doesn't have pants on, you can call or text us.
Yep.
If Joe has a machete, you call the city.
There we go. That's a pretty safe description. I like that. I think I have done both of those over the last couple of years. So that's awesome. As we should, because that's how we see something, say something, right? So it's an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you enough. I thank you for your time very generously. You're obviously a busy woman with a lot to do. I know that there's a lot in the neighborhood waiting for you out there today. So I appreciate you. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for talking about our neighborhood, but also just thank you for helping me extrapolate our neighborhood out to our wider world as a greater example, both here in Southern California, inside of Los Angeles, which is, we both believe passionately, is in a period of tremendous transition, which is going to lead to our next great era of thriving. And that just means good things for everybody, no matter where you come at this thing from. The community that we are building is here to serve us all. And Kathleen, you are an incredible example of that for your leadership. So I really, really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for the time, Rob. Thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure. And as always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show is produced by our team at the Storytellers Company in Mexico City and Los Angeles. And you can always find, follow, subscribe, and share our show as found on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you find your favorite podcast by searching Entrepreneurial Thinkers with Rob Ryan. You can also follow along on our various social media platforms for clips and contents at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And if you'd like to connect with me, our host, you can find me just about anywhere on social under the handle I am Rob Ryan. Thanks, and have a great day.